Hey, thanks for checking out Blue by 90. On today's episode, we talk about our top 5 running backs. Then we transition into some news about players who tested positive for COVID and how that will impact college football moving forward. Then we wrap up with some news about Michigan versus LSU game possibly coming soon. And then stay tuned for our 0 to 90 takes. Thanks and enjoy the show.
This is the University of Michigan.
Touchdown, Michigan!
And midcourt extra pass.
And it goes for the win! The three-pointer by Jordan Poole! Down the sideline! Peoples-Jones! Touchdown, Wolverine!
Welcome to Blue by 90, your Michigan Wolverines podcast. We are 3 dudes who talk maize and blue. I'm Kalen, joined by Ro and Jack. Guys, how you doing this morning?
Good, man. Beautiful day.
Another beautiful day. I feel like we endured the winter, and even the spring was pretty crappy, but we've had a couple weeks here in Michigan that have been unbelievable.
Yeah, no complaints.
We both successfully went on the boat yesterday, and no red face, which is great. My arms are a little sunburnt, but no tomato faces this week.
I'm trying to stay under that 5 sunburns by, what'd you say, August or something, by the first game of the year. So I'm trying to keep that under from your 0 to 90 last week. So. These are the money makers, though, right, Jack? Like, we got to keep these fresh here. So check us out on YouTube to see our non-sunburn this week. Don't go back and look at last week's episode, because you'll see a tomato in the spot where my face is supposed to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah, now you got the light, right? The ring light to make it all look nice. You had your makeup artist hit you real quick. So Jack looks a little redder than you this week now.
Let's go. That's what I like to hear.
Oh, good. I'm glad we're all getting outside. So we definitely had some big news, big week, right? Jim Harbaugh was out protesting this week. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going down, but we're going to kind of make our podcast kind of a positive space, right? So a place where people can escape from the realities of the world and just see the positivity that is Michigan sports, right?
Agreed. Love it. A lot of bad stuff going on. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
I think the one thing I did want to touch on was kind of what you already said here is I'm glad that it's good to hear where that Harbaugh, our football coach, is in a good spot here, I think, with the players and with everything else. And he's on, what I would like to call the right side of things here. Not to get too political or anything, but there's a lot of coaches out there that have, said some remarks in the past few days or weeks that haven't gone so well. And so to see our guy, out there with his players, with his other coaches, standing in unity with them, it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, agreed. So we're kind of going to gloss over some of those things. If anybody wants us to touch on any of them, feel free to leave us a comment or something, and maybe we can bring a guest on and address some of those concerns. But for now, we're going to pivot a little bit towards some Michigan football talk, right? I think we all have a list for our top 5 running backs. Now, caveat here, top 5 running backs since 2000. So I was going to put Tim Biakapatuka on my list. They shut me down. Didn't like that. So who wants to go first? I guess, how do we want to do this? We want to go round robin? We want to go 1 to 5? What's the deal?
Snake draft?
What? Oh, you got to explain the snake draft to me. I like the way you did it last time. Is that what snake draft is? Going like 5 to 1?
Not really, but sure, we'll go with that. Haven't you ever played fantasy football or something like that? Come on now.
Dude, I don't follow the NFL a lot, man. That's what I want to do. Is I need to start following the NFL, and by doing fantasy football is the only way that I'm gonna be able to do that. So this year will be my first year, I believe.
All right, we'll do a blue by 90. Maybe we can do a fantasy football league. We'll see if some listeners want to join in on it, and you can kick Jack's ass in fantasy football, and you can realize that like we actually don't know what we're talking about with football too. We'll have us three and then 10 other listeners on there, and we're going to be the bottom three probably.
Oh, 100%.
Love it. Love to see it.
I'll lead it off.
All right, sweet.
All right, number 5 on my list, I've got Davion Smith. He during his career from 2013 to 2016, he had 2,235 yards. Pretty much seemed to be our go-to back in 2015 and 2016. Not really a big home run threat, but a consistent guy that we knew exactly what we were going to get out of him. So that's why I've got it number 5. Go ahead, Ro.
I'll go too. I had Davion Smith as not my number 5 as well. You said everything there. The one thing I do remember about Davion Smith, he had that one run. I can't remember who it was against, but he carried was it BYU? He carried like 10 people on his back, the whole BYU defense. That was like honestly one of the most incredible runs I've ever seen. So even if he never played a down other than that, he can make the list just for that run.
Dude, I've rewatched that clip over and over and over just to try to find the hole that he comes out of. Still, no idea how he got through there and like where he came from. But he was in the backfield, then he was in the big scrum there, and then he was just gone.
No, I'm with you. Davion Smith is legit. But my number 5, I'm coming out guns blazing. My number 5 is Zach Charbonnet.
Ooh.
Wow.
726 yards last year on 149 attempts, 11 touchdowns. You give this kid a shot, he is going to put up some crazy numbers. Over the course of his career, I think that he could earn that number 5 spot, and that's why I'm putting him there.
Could. A lot of hope there.
Hot take of the week. That is pretty good, though. I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, we can go from Kalen's awful take to my number 4. I've got Fitz Toussaint. Honestly, he only really had one good, like pretty exceptional year. His sophomore year, 2011. Last time we beat Ohio State, we won the Sugar Bowl against Virginia Tech. But he put up over 1,000 yards, averaging 5.6 yards a carry, and that's based off of from 2000. He was one of the more exciting running backs that I like to watch. So I've got Fitz at number 4.
All right. My number 4, I have Karan Higdon at 4. So Karan, it feels like he was the last. I mean, we had a pretty good chunk of time, with Rich Rod and Brady Hoke, and even the beginning of Harbaugh, where we didn't have 1,000-yard rusher, right? And so he brought that back. I think he was a good. Again, he had some really solid runs. I don't think he was like a never in the Heisman or really not even like a star running back. We had more stars around him than he was the guy. But just the toughness that he had was awesome. Especially for a little guy. He was a bulldog and great leader on the field and everything. So I had Karan at 4.
Yeah, great pick. My number 4 was actually Davion Smith. For all kind of reasons we already talked about, and that run against BYU, I'm with you. That was crazy. I don't know where the hell he came from.
Ro, I'm interested to hear your top 3 if Karan's number 4.
Can't wait. All right, let's hear it. Let's hear you first, and then I'll let you know.
So for 3, I've got Karan. He was our number 1 guy in 2017 and 2018. He had 1,000 yards his senior year, which is the 2018 season. He was only 6 yards away from 1,000 yards in his junior year. And I think, honestly, Chris Evans could have been a guy that was on this list if, whatever happened with him didn't happen. But if Chris Evans wasn't the number 2 back that year, And being that good of a number 2 back, I think Karan easily would have passed 1,000 yards, maybe even gotten to like 1,200, 1,300 yard mark. So yeah, I got Karan number 3.
All right, so I actually put Fitz at 3, Fitz Toussaint at 3 above Karan. And the reason is because I think that Fitz did more with less than Karan did. So Karan had what I believe is a really good offensive line compared to what Fitz had. You know, if you go back to those teams that he was on, you know, 2011 was obviously his big year, like you said, where we went 11-2 and won the Sugar Bowl. But I believe, you know, he turned out, like we've talked about this on previous podcast episodes, you know, he turned out to be a solid running back in the NFL for a few years there for, I believe, the Steelers and the Ravens, I think. And so I think that he did more with less, where if he had a good O-line and good coaching staff and things like that, he could have been a 1,000-yard rusher every year. But the way that the teams went, it just didn't go his way. That's why I had him above Karan there.
Yeah, and actually my number 3 was Karan. So I mean, I think we're all kind of in the same boat
Pretty
here.
close,
We all like Karan. We all are like, he is probably one of the better running backs in our lifetime that we can like really remember.
Yeah.
Kalen, I love when we agree. Just makes me happy. Especially when it's against Mr. Tomato Face, Justin Earl.
Oh, you can't be talking over there today.
Anyway.
You're going to be rubbing aloe on your arms all day today.
Dude, that's what I did last night, man. I had to put a long sleeve shirt on to like sleep so I don't smell the aloe all over me. It's not the most comfortable feeling in the world.
I did want to say one more thing about Fitz too at 3 was I believe we didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher from 2011 to either 2017 or 18. So he was that 1,000-yard rusher in 2011. So, you know, he was that last guy. So that's why I had him back up there.
Yeah.
Very fair. Very fair.
All right. This is tough because I almost had him at number 1. He's my favorite, like one of my favorite Michigan players of all time, obviously behind John Navarre, but he was a teammate of John Navarre, Chris Perry. He had 3,696 yards throughout his time at Michigan. In his final 2 seasons, he did rush for more than 1,000 yards, and he won the Doak Walker Award in 2003, rushing for 1,674 yards and 18 touchdowns. And then he also finished 4th in the Heisman voting that year. And he was first-round pick, going 26 to the Bengals. I mean, Chris Perry was my guy. He had the 23 jersey. Oh, man, I just such an athletic, speedy back. It was like, do you guys remember Carlos Brown? Like, that's what I remember. Like, he never really did too much at Michigan, but that is who I kind of, like, thought of him as, because Carlos Brown was he was an athletic guy, speedster, and I was kind of hoping he would kind of become a Chris Perry, but it never really panned out. But that's my number 2.
Yeah, I actually had Chris Perry at number 2 as well. You know, we kind of talked about this when we did our top 5 QBs, but when I first was really falling in love with Michigan football, Chris Perry was that guy, right? You know, it seems like he was the last guy. You know, we've had some good running backs that we've already talked about in the past, 10 years or so, but he was the last time where we were like a true powerhouse running back. Our offensive line was unbelievable, right? You know, the Lloyd Carr way. He was just that guy. And, like you said, 1,600 yards. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. And nobody gets that nowadays because everyone throws the ball a lot more. But still, that's a wild stat. You would never see that again, especially nowadays in college football. So, he's a great pick at number 2. And I just, like you said, the 23 jersey, like I remember having him and Braylon and, Chad Henne, John Navarre, like those guys those were the guys that made a lot of our generation fall in love with Michigan football.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you because my number 2 is also Chris Perry. I mean, the guy was legit. I mean, that whole team, I feel like I remember watching those games and it felt like you heard Chris Perry's name just over and over again. And then those 4 touchdowns to beat Florida in his last game as well. The guy was just a monster, and I think putting him at number 2 is fair, especially I assume we all have the same number 1 now.
Oh, yeah. We definitely all have the same number 1. I know everybody listening is probably going to think the same thing. But, yeah, I've got Sam McGuffey.
Oh, man, that got me.
I was so hyped for Sam McGuffey, though. When he first came to Michigan, there was so much hype around him. And, yes, I'm kidding. I don't have Sam McGuffey. He's the bottom of my list. Whatever.
He might have been the most hyped up player of all time, no matter what. Dude, those videos of him just doing flips and jumping over everything is wild.
He was a gymnast in football. He should have just done gymnastics. I mean, dude, he got wrecked multiple times. He was always getting laid out and would fly back 15 yards. I'm like, holy shit! How is he even getting up from this? But for real, obviously the obvious number 1, Mike Hart. Like I said, Chris Perry, I think, could have been there. If he would have had 4 years like Mike Hart did, I probably would have had Chris Perry number 1 because his numbers would have just been more insane than they already are. But Mike Hart, man, some stats with him. His freshman year is when he had the most yards in a season, I believe. And he ran for a freshman record, 1,455 yards in 2004. That was the last time we won a Big Ten title. It was a shared title with, I believe, Iowa. So it wasn't an outright title. I think the last outright title was in 2003. But man, his whole 4 years, that was a fun team to watch. Chad Henne, Mario Manningham, I believe, was still on those teams for a little bit. Adrian Arrington, all those guys, man, it was just such a fun team to watch. And anybody that comes up with the little brother comment is number 1 in my heart, So Mike Hart is my number 1, which I'm assuming he is with you guys as well.
Yeah, the big thing for me that I love about Mike Hart is 4-0 against Michigan State, and the little brother comment obviously led to some not so great years for us after that. But
that karma.
He absolutely dominated Michigan State, and so you know what, he deserves to. He can say the little brother comment, that's well deserved. Whether it nowadays can be said or not, he could say it because he's 4-0, and so there's no question about it for me. I mean, Chris Perry is definitely a close second, but Mike Hart was just again that guy that domination as far as a running back. We were just we really were RBU back then. That's what we were. That's what we were known for. So I'd love to get back to those days again as well.
Yeah, Mike Hart, I mean, most rush yards, little brother comment, say no more, right? I mean, the guy's a legend. So his place at number 1, I think, is very, very fair and duly deserved. So
did you guys have anybody that was kind of just outside of the 5? I didn't even look up his numbers, but I almost put Brandon Minor up there. I was going to look into it and see if maybe he was a top 5 guy. Did you guys have any of those where you were kind of thinking they could possibly kind of jump in there?
It's funny you said Brandon Minor because I actually thought of him too, and I was going to put him in number 5, but I was like, nah, Zach Charbonnet, man.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think Charbonnet could get there. He could get there. But based off, I don't know. Yeah, you could just have the best take of all year, but we'll see.
The only thing that's going to hold Charbonnet back is we have studs. We have other studs in the running back room, right? That could take yards and stats away from him. The one that I thought about, and I know we actually had him in the quarterback, was Denard. Can you count him in this? He's in the top 5 rushing yards.
That he is, and I thought about that one, and I was like, I just felt it would be disrespectful to him as a quarterback. But yes, he was. I mean, he was top 5 for all those yards, and I saw him his name come up, and I was kind of looking at a couple other things. But I was like, you know what, Denard's a quarterback. I'm going to leave him as is. But yeah, 100%. If Denard would have been a running back, he'd probably be top 3. I mean, he was insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the top 5. He's in the top 5. I believe he's 5th as the most rushing yards in Michigan football history, which is pretty crazy, with the history of Michigan football that they've had going back to, the 1800s, and they beat teams like 120-0. So it's pretty nuts for a quarterback to be even in that top five, especially with guys like Chris Perry and Mike Hart, who were talking about having 1,000-yard rushing season after 1,000-yard rushing season. So yeah.
Well, dude, do you guys remember when I think he set the single game record for rushing yards by a quarterback, and then he beat it the next game against Notre Dame? That was like, man, I literally remember him running away in that white jersey, just flying away from Notre Dame, fighting Irish, man. That's what I remember with Denard. I'm like, holy shit, man. Like, imagine if like Tate Forcier kind of would have taken over as quarterback, who was number 4 in the Heisman voting for the first 4 weeks of that whatever season that was. Can you imagine having him at quarterback and then Denard at running back and just blowing people away? That might be an awful take, and you know what? I'll go with it. I'm known for it, but I think that could have been a crazy duo, man.
Fun fact about that Notre Dame game is I was there in South Bend, and I was sitting right next to Rich Rod's wife and kids, literally hugging Rita Rodriguez as Denard's like flying down. And actually, I was right next to. That's where I met Denard's brother, who I'm good friends with now. And so like I'm like, it was just a wild game. I remember the one where he, that long run 80 yards or whatever. That was unreal. So I don't totally disagree with that, that hot take you've got there.
Well, in some parallel dimension, hopefully that's the route Michigan went down. All right, moving on to our next topic here. I heard a couple players, one at Alabama, one at Oklahoma State, somehow got COVID-19. What's the impact on those programs now? I mean, do they have to, quarantine all their players for 2 weeks or what? Does anybody know?
Dude, I saw it sounded like it was more than just like one. Like it was like multiple. Like for one, I think it was like up to like 5 players got it. And
wow.
Honestly, I wish I would have read the article so that'd have been more insightful. But that would have just been too professional, and I can't do that. But I can't remember if they said they brought it to campus or like or if they got tested before and maybe they couldn't come to campus because of that. But dude, if they brought it to campus and they had it, that is not that can't be a positive impact on the college football season.
Yeah, it seems like, so what I'm pretty sure happened, so it was 5 players from Alabama and then 1 player from Oklahoma State that has been reported so far. And really, so this is they were the first couple teams that I think that have reported to, right now everyone's just doing voluntary workouts. So it's not anything like team sanctioned or anything like that, which voluntary workouts in college football are the most mandatory workouts ever, right? They say these workouts are voluntary, but so is playing time. So that's the old saying. But yeah, so I think that they brought this, from wherever they are. Who knows where it came from, right? It could have been contracted anywhere. But these guys are getting tested now once they get back to campus. And so yeah, who knows? I don't know how many exactly players reported from Bama, but 5 of them had tested positive for COVID, which, like Jack said, I mean, brutal, first thing to happen as these guys come back, just as far as the press and, what this means for college football. I'm really worried on as we keep going, as teams keep reporting to camp, as I think Michigan football is going to be June 15th, they report for voluntary workouts. What's going to happen there? Are guys going to keep testing positive? Like you said, Kalen, how is each team? It's going to be, university by university, how they handle it. Are they quarantining? Are they, just say, all right, we're done for, workouts for 2 weeks until this happens. But I think it's going to keep happening for a while. Hopefully these guys are healthy enough that they won't be too negatively impacted by the virus. But we'll see how that goes. It's definitely not a good thing, that's for sure.
No, and I saw an article from Lincoln Riley too, saying exactly what you were saying, Ro. about these workouts. They say that they're voluntary, but they're really not, right? So we really have to be, aware of our players' best interests. But this kind of made me think of something that I don't know. I want to get your guys' opinion on. I heard something. I can't remember where I saw somebody saying this, but if you're a guy like Trevor Lawrence, right? Why would you not just say, you know what? I'm the best QB in my class. I'm just going to sit out the whole year.
I mean, honestly, people were kind of saying that for him last year. Like, sit out his
And
next
there was
2
no
years.
coronavirus.
Right. Like, I was like, dude, you're about to get paid. Just like go on vacation for 2 years. Go live in freaking like Hawaii and get an agent. And like the NCAA can't like do anything to you because you're not playing, right? Unless it can have some effect on the team. Dude, I don't know. I think that'd be a smart move for him because the only thing that can happen is he can get hurt and then he loses his money. But
yeah,
no.
know. And I mean, I know last year they asked him after the college football championship series. They asked him like, "Are you going to come back and play?" Blah blah blah, and he's like, "Well, I'm here to play with my team, and I'm competitive, and I'm going to play, right?" But that's a totally different story after COVID. So I kind of look at guys like that, and I'm like, dude, there's really no reason for you to put yourself in harm's way. Just sit out. I think it's not a bad idea.
If you're a top 5 guy right now, there's really no reason to play. And we've seen that, in college basketball too. The guy that was going to play at Memphis, and then he got sanctioned and was going to have to sit out for half the year. He just said, "Okay, I'm just going to sit out forever and just go to the NBA then." Same thing's going to start happening in college football. If a guy like Trevor Lawrence, has that great year, it's going to happen. One of these guys are going to say, "Screw it, I'm just going to work out at IMG Academy, for 2 years or something like that, and then I'll still be a top 5 draft pick." And so now, like you said, with everything going on, what if he gets COVID and something happens to him? That's millions and millions of dollars lost because if something happens like that, he could drop in the draft. And so I don't see for a lot of these guys why they should play this year, which is a sad thing. Obviously, we're a pro football podcast here. We want football to happen, but we're here for the safety of the players as well. And so I mean, the worst possible scenario in this situation is these teams start coming back, and then a player or a coach unfortunately passes away from the virus, right? That's worst possible scenario. And so I think that it's just going to be a tough situation to maneuver through here for the NCAA and these universities, because guess what? These players are 18 through 22 or 23. They're probably pretty healthy and they could get through the virus. But what about, a guy like Don Brown, who is in his late 60s? What if he gets the virus? There's a lot of older men and women around around these teams that you could be afraid of negatively being impacted by this virus and not making it through. So it's a tough situation for everyone to navigate through here. And then especially once you start talking about guys voluntarily, sitting out, it's going to be just wild.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think, let's kind of angle that question back towards Michigan, right? Do you think there's anybody in Michigan football or even Michigan sports that should sit out?
Top of my mind, I'd say no. I mean, I'd say maybe Isaiah Livers, but he's even a guy that after people looked at him this year, he's not even on the top, 75 players? So he's a guy where I'd say he needs to play. He needs to be able to show that he can get into that top 75 or whatever number that is. And as far as Michigan football, I mean, both of our quarterbacks haven't proven themselves yet. They need to play. And I can't think of anybody else that might be a standout that would have the ability to sit out. Maybe Cam McGrone. But other than that, I can't really think of anybody that it would be better off for them to do that when they're trying to pursue a professional career in sports.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have that top 5 quarterback or running back or even lineman at this point. We have some good standouts, but nobody's penciled in at that spot yet. So I don't see anybody, maybe Franz Wagner on the basketball team and Isaiah Livers, like Jack said, but those guys will probably get drafted. Who knows? It's tough to say, but they would maybe get drafted in the 2021 draft. I don't think the 2020 draft. So we'll see, but I don't see anybody in Michigan athletics that would sit out or be able to sit out and just say, yeah, I'm gonna make my money.
Yeah,
maybe Jalen Mayfield though. People have him penciled in early as a first rounder.
That is true. Yeah, that could be one for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough question and something we don't want to think about, but that's why we're here, to ask the tough questions and give you bad answers, I guess.
I love that.
Yep.
Give us the tough questions, we'll give you bad answers.
Always. That should just be in our bio.
That really should. New slogan.
All right, well, let's move on to our last topic here. I heard something, I just saw it on Instagram, about Michigan may be scheduling a game with LSU in the future here. Does anybody know any more about this?
No, I saw what you saw. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've seen it in the past. Michigan doesn't really schedule cupcakes in the beginning of the season or for non-conference games. They try to go after pretty solid programs and play good teams to be able to prove ourselves, which has hurt us in the past record-wise. I mean, we can go back to I believe it was 2018 when we lost to Notre Dame first game of the season, and then we go into I believe that Ohio State game 10-1, right? We could have been undefeated going into that game. So I could definitely see it happening. And honestly, don't get me wrong, I love getting hyped up for that exciting gaming in the beginning of the season. But honestly, I'd like to see us go undefeated. So I'd rather play a cupcake, but yeah, it's exciting as hell, man, to see a top program like LSU possibly coming to the big house or us going there or playing in Jerry's World or whatever it may be. It'd be a fun game to watch for sure.
Yeah, I think that the only way we should do it is if it's a home and home. I don't want to go play in Jerry's World again. We've been there, done that with Florida and with Alabama. It's cool and all, but there's nothing like it. It doesn't compare to playing at home. And for LSU to come here, that would be one of the most hyped up games ever, right? Of Michigan Stadium. And then if we went down to Death Valley. First of all, I don't really want to do that. We would get our ass kicked. But still, it'd be a cool environment, cool thing to see. It'd be that if it's the first.
Love
I'm sure
to travel to that game.
Oh my God, that would be unbelievable. But little Southern hospitality down in Baton Rouge, that'd be pretty sweet. But I still think what's the benefit as far as actually trying to win a national title there? It's a cool thing, but where does that benefit us as far as trying to go 12-0 and get into the national title picture? We've already got a juggernaut on the last game of the year that we haven't been able to beat. Why would we put a juggernaut on the first game of the year? Like even Washington this year, I think is, it's a cool thing, but we're going to Washington. And so then you can, possibly start out 0-1. When Alabama is probably playing, Sister Mary School of the Deaf and Blind game one, it's just not. I don't. It's cool. We'll make a lot of money for the department. It will have a lot of eyes on us. TV deal will be prime time that first game of the year. But it's like the goal is to win a national title, right? These games are not helping us win a national title.
Yeah, I mean, do you think we should just schedule cupcakes then? Because, I mean, isn't a little bit of like Notre Dame's claim to fame that like we only play prime time and we only play great competition, even though they play a bunch of ACC schools. But, I mean, do you think we should just schedule cupcakes then?
Yes, 100%. Give me all the cupcakes.
If we were able to prove that we could beat an LSU team, then I'd say, yes, let's schedule them. We haven't even proven that we can beat all these teams in the Big Ten. So the fact that we're looking at it as, we're not on their level yet, right? So if we were in Alabama or Clemson or in Ohio State, then yeah, let's play these. It'll be a fun game. We could definitely get the W, which helps your resume. But where our program is at right now, we can't beat an LSU. We can't beat a Washington, or we can't beat a Washington. We can't beat a Clemson. We can't beat an Alabama. So why are we scheduling what we would be slotted in as a loss already? If we're trying to win a national title.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, there's really no benefit to it, right? Because Alabama doesn't play those games. They play in a tough conference, just like we do. So, I mean, playing easy games, get those easy wins, and then play in your tough conference. And they've already established that Alabama can do that and get into the college football playoff. So why don't we just do that and do the same thing?
100%. Use it as a spring training. I mean, there's no benefit to a Power 5 conference team to do that. Now, if you're a UCF and you play that game and you win, then maybe that helps propel you into a New Year's Six bowl, or, they'd have to have some big wins against good teams to get into the playoff. But for a Power 5 team, it looks much better to go undefeated playing cupcakes than it does playing, a really good team at the beginning of the year and losing.
That loss is the stain on your season, right? Where nobody even looks. If you go 12-0, trust me, nobody's looking at the front of your season saying, "Oh, they only beat Middle Tennessee State by 30." Nobody's looking at that. So it doesn't. Yeah, there's the risk is definitely way more than the reward there. The other thing too is everyone's like, oh, Jim Harbaugh versus Ed Orgeron. This is going to happen in 2032, right? They schedule these games for 10 years out. So who knows, unless it's done in the next 5 years, who knows where either program is at once we get to that point. LSU, outside of this past year, national champs, obviously, they've been that 9-3, 10-2 team just like we have. So it's kind of you never know where the programs are going to be or where college football is going to be at that point either.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a good topic, and I'm all for scheduling the cupcakes now that we've talked about it at least. Let's roll into our 0 to 90 takes here. Getting towards the end of our episode, so let's get some good takes here, guys. You guys got something prepared, or?
I'm ready.
Yeah, right. We're good to go.
Jack, you went last week, so I'm gonna make you go first this week.
Number one for number one. All right, let me know when to go.
Your 30 seconds for your 0 to 90 take begins now.
All right, so Kalen put Zach Charbonnet as his number 5 top running back since 2000. I'm going to have a hot take and say Blake Corum, once his time is done at Michigan, will end up as a top 3 running back for the University of Michigan Wolverines.
Whoa, dude. Nate is just about to call you on the phone and tell
Shout out
you.
my boy Nate.
Yeah. That's awesome. We love Blake Corum. Dude, that video he posted, jacked out of his mind.
Dude, he's a monster.
And he's 19? Like that, if you get him in a college weight program here, he's gonna be a bowling ball. Because he's a little guy, right? He's only 5'10", 5'9", something like that. So yeah, he could be a stud for us.
He didn't look little in that video. Oh man.
Looks like a little take.
When I say little, I mean short.
There you go. Okay.
His arms were bigger than my head.
All right, Ro, you're 0 to 90. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, your take begins now.
All right, so 23 of 24 offensive players with 8 or more starts under Coach Harbaugh have signed NFL contracts, and 26 of 28 defensive players with 8 or more starts under Harbaugh have signed NFL contracts. Go to Michigan, and you'll go to the NFL if you start there. It is a top 5 program to get players into the NFL.
Let's go.
Yeah, I can't even argue. That's true, man.
Come on.
I think Cam put that up, or somebody put it up, and I saw Cam shared it, and I was like, man, that is insane. Like, you never would think that. But there's what, 3 out of those numbers, 3 or 4 people that have started for Michigan and not gone to the draft or gotten, what is it? Is it played in the NFL or gotten drafted?
It was signed NFL contracts. So
okay.
You could still, yeah.
That's still amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that should be an ESPN talking point.
Right? But they'd rather rip on Harbaugh for anything at this point. But, I mean, when you think about it, like, we have a lot of studs even from the past 3 years that are starting in the NFL right now. Devin Bush, like rookie of the year, Chase Winovich, and I think a lot of the guys that got drafted this year are going to get serious playing time. Those 10 guys that we had drafted, they're going to get serious playing time here in the NFL next year if it happens.
Yeah.
All right, Kalen, you're 0 to 90. I don't have a stopwatch here. Ro, you got something for me?
I got it for you.
All right. Kalen, you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
I'm going to try to imitate your voice as much as possible. Your 0 to 90 starts now.
Okay. Make the big house loud again. One of the things we need to do is we need to make the band better. Honestly, whenever the band's on the field, I'm like, okay, time to go get a snack or use the restroom. So we need to make the band way better. I think that could be done by bringing in a live artist to make a performance along with the band. My suggestion, Migos. Let's play some Bad and Bougie. Let's play some, Walk It Like I Talk It. Let's do some really fun stuff that makes players want to come here and play here.
Yeah, and done. Let's go.
That's amazing.
Migos
past 0 to 90 takes of the entire time. That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Sure. I mean, they're best friends with Harbaugh, right?
Dude,
Sure.
Yeah. Harbaugh was flexing the chain and the watch and everything. So let's do it.
That'd be amazing.
They legit come around like just to watch practice quite often, honestly, with no like appearance or anything. They're legit fans. It's kind of crazy.
So let's get them in center field, in the center of the stadium. Just that'd be so fun. I'd love it.
That would be incredible. I'm sure the donors and all the people sitting down would really love that in Michigan Stadium.
Perfect. Maybe they'll make some noise then.
Even if it's booing, I'd rather hear some noise from them.
Something, right? It's so quiet in there.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was some good 0 to 90s, guys. Awesome takes. Well, anybody got anything else that they want to put out there?
The last thing I did want to say is we have a plan for the NBA to come back end of July, right? So we're nearing the end of the tunnel, everyone. We're so close. Sports are starting to come back. Hopefully that goes seamlessly and everything that we talked about with COVID earlier in the podcast, it starts to get better and better. But we're getting closer and closer. Quarantine's over here in the next few days in Michigan. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Keep chugging through. We'll enjoy the summer, and then sports will be back sooner than you think.
Yeah, so thanks for checking us out at Blue by 90 Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Blue by 90 and on YouTube at Blue by 90 Podcast, I believe. So we hope you enjoyed the show, and go Blue.
Go Blue.
Yep. Go Blue.
If one more label try to stop me, it's gonna be some dreadhead niggas in your lobby. You don't want no problem with me. You don't want no problem with me. Just another day at the pick up on the mail. They gon' channel riding through the streets, they be like they go. You don't want no problem with me. You don't want no problem with me. Just another day. Up on the mail, they gon' channel riding through the streets, they be like they go. Ooh, I just come and put the hinges in their hand, counting bitches while we meet and make them shake my other hand. Millie rockin', scooping all the blessings on my lap. I know you tried to cheat, you should've never took a nap. Hey, what wrong with you? What you were thinking? Thought it was you taught that make a lame fall in love. Not me though. At your head like Craig did Debo. Don't sweet, bro. It's never sweet. My come for free, so if one more label try to stop me, it's gonna be some dread in your lobby. You don't want no problem with